We are back with some more Fable news, but this time the biggest reveal yet. 30 minutes of uninterrupted gameplay footage. And I'll give my overall thoughts towards the end of the video, but let's dive right into it, starting with the crime system and combat chapter markers below. So the player right here is in the town of Silverbrook, and he decides to just pull out his bow and recklessly shoot some arrows over villagers' heads, and this causes the player's reputation to take a bit of a hit. So as you can see here, a plus reckless pops up on the screen multiple times, and over on the left of the screen you can see that there are two red banner notifications that have an eye and an exclamation point icon, with the text being reckless endangerment. Now this appears to perhaps put the town guards a bit more on alert status to your character's actions. But later on in the video, we actually get to see the player scrolling over the town of Silverbrook when on the world map. And we can see that the player's actions are being tracked here with the crime reputation system, as the player has two reckless endangerment charges, I guess you could say. I got one of those when I was 18, but that's a long story. As well as a few other charges that you'll see here in action shortly. Now, the player then decides to actually shoot a villager in the leg. The player aimed at the villager's right leg, and that is the leg that actually shot back and caused the NPC to fall over. So perhaps the physics and some of the animations of this world are a little more fleshed out than many of us would have imagined, but I did love to see that. When shooting a villager, we get to see a plus violent text reputation thing pop up on the screen alongside the red banner eye icon from before, but this time the text says assault. Perhaps most importantly here, though, is that assaulting an NPC has caused the player to become an actual criminal, and guards will attack criminals until they escape or pay a fine of, in this case, 3,000 gold. If we take a look again at that crime sheet that showcases later on in the video, you can see that that fine increased all the way up to 48,000 gold by the time this player was done in this demonstration. Becoming a criminal causes a bunch of red dots on the minimap to appear, indicating that guards are coming to confront you. And then in this case, combat begins. There appears to be some sort of parry mechanic, I'm assuming here, that you can do that might cause a little scene to play out. We got to watch as the player used magic, which is will in the Fable universe.
And will in style weaving combat. Upon coming until I leave Silverbrook.
Melee, which is strength.
You choose the weapons, skills, and abilities you want to use and blend them seamlessly.
And ranged, which is skill. And I'd say this is all in true Fable fashion, as you absolutely do not have to stick to one type of build if you don't want to. After killing a guard, you'll see a plus killer pop up on the screen alongside the red banner once again, but this time stating murder. And since the player kills 9 guards in total, murder shows 9 on the crime sheet later on in the demonstration. Now, other things that I noticed in combat are that the guards appear to have some sort of armor bar above their HP bar. When ranged opponents attack you, there's some sort of visual indicator that pops up letting you know that there is incoming damage from whatever direction that ranged character is shooting you from. After an opponent is killed, these green orbs will spawn, which the player can then pick up for XP, just like in the OG Fable. And to use your spells, on controller at least, it looks like if you hold down R2, you'll be able to press one of 4 buttons to use specific spells that you have slotted to those buttons. And the 3 little blue dots right here likely indicate that there are additional ability pages, I guess I could say, that you're able to cycle between. Spells in this game do have their own cooldowns, and if you're wondering what that diamond box is above the spell wheel here, shall I say ability wheel, as it might not just be all spells that you put on this wheel. Well, this diamond is your available arrows for your bow, but these 4 arrows do have their own fairly quick cooldown timers, so it is unlimited arrows in this game. You just can't constantly spam them unless perhaps there's some sort of archery type ability or skill that allows you to upgrade that. After all this combat goes down, the player decides to run away, and it seems like if you don't, the guards will just endlessly spawn in, perhaps indicating that we can't actually take over a village combat-wise, or at least not this one. And the longer that you avoid a location after you committed a crime, the lesser that your fines will be. Overall, I gotta say, I think the combat looks like it's a ton of fun. I liked most of the animations. There appears to be some feeling of impact. I like the particle effects. There were a lot of cool spells that were demonstrated. And despite the lack of gore and blood, there were still some rather brutal finishing moves that I did appreciate. And everything also seemed to be quite fluid. So as of now, I'd say bravo to the devs in this category. Although I hate to be the bearer of bad news for those of you guys that are unaware, I actually only learned this recently. This Fable is going to feature level scaling. Ah, man, I was so bummed to hear that the other day. It's not the end of the world, but in my opinion, level scaling is a design philosophy that's a bit antithetical to the genre of RPGs. Sure, it's worked good for some other games in the past, but generally speaking, I don't know. I don't like to hear that. But anyways, it doesn't completely ruin the game. It just, I thought I'd bring that up, and some of you guys will probably also be disappointed. But moving on to the world, and as most of you should know by now, Fable is an open world game. And in this demonstration, it takes place in one of the 6 regions of the map. In this case, Oakshire or Oakshire. I'm not exactly sure how to pronounce it. And I gotta say, this location is quite beautiful. It's got that Shire feel to it, accompanied with some vibrant fantasy touches, which to me is actually very Fable feeling. And we even get to see a giant beanstalk not too far off in the distance, giving that fairy tale vibe. Despite not knowing if the open world overall is going to be designed well in terms of quest objectives and things that you can do, at the very least, it seems like it's going to be enjoyable walking or riding around, and it should offer, quite the immersive and visual experience. We have a mini map in the bottom left, and to my surprise, you don't actually see quest markers all over the mini map or the game itself. Now, it certainly doesn't mean that there won't be any of that, but at least in this demonstration, there's really none of it, and I actually appreciate that. That makes me hopeful. And as the player nears the village of Silverbrook, which is a peaceful farming town, you start to see little indicators on the mini-map of different points of interest and NPCs you can interact with, such as the stable, the armor shop, the hairdresser, etc. At the very end of the gameplay, we did get a glimpse of the map at large, and I would say another bravo to the devs here for the chosen art style. I love it here. It looks hand-drawn and authentic. Do want to point out in the bottom right of the map, you actually see an icon for wait. So I'm assuming that you're able to pass some time in this game with the day and night cycle. Okay, now let's talk about NPCs. In this case, just regular villagers. So we're told that there are over 1,000 handcrafted, fully voiced NPCs in this game, each with their own jobs, home, routine, relationships, and memory. And that these NPCs are not scripted dressing, they instead have emergent behavior that the studio says is powered by real-time systems, and this makes up a lot of the game's sim elements to it. So of course Fable is going to have a main story and everything that goes along with that, and side quests, etc., but there's also going to be opportunities for you to just live in the world and do things with NPCs and do all sorts of life simulator type activities that are all tied into this, emergent behavior reputation system. When the player interacts with an NPC, a little reputation and actions menu will pop up. And in this case, for reputation, Max, the stable hand here, is indifferent to the player character because this is the first time that Max has interacted with this player and the first time that this player has been to this town. If we go further into the demonstration, though, you'll see the player gives some gold coin to a beggar, and that the player's reputation after doing that shows liked, and that Jack the Beggar thinks the player is a considerate person. So this is going to change according to your actions and what you do in a town and when you interact with people and how you interact with them. On the bottom of the NPC interaction menu, we have 4 different actions that you can take, at least on these particular NPC menus. The first one is Flirt, followed by asking the NPC to follow you. And then we also have a gift option. And lastly, an option to give coin, which we watch the player do with Jack the Beggar. But going back to Max, the stable hand, who is indifferent to the player asks Max to follow him, but Max denies that request as he really has no reason to follow the player, as he doesn't know the player. The player is basically just a random person to Max. Then we have another NPC who owns the tailor shop, and this NPC actually dislikes the player for various reasons due to the player's previous chosen actions. And because of that dislike, this NPC's prices are actually jacked up by 80% to the player. So interesting reactivity going on here. And we also got to see an example of the player using the flirt icon.
Is it hot around here, or is it just you?
But before that, note that Megan right here is actually a merchant NPC. So there's an extra action that we can take here, which is browse goods. Now you notice that Megan already has an opinion on the player character, and that is because of something the player did earlier in the demonstration. And when the player attempts to flirt with Megan, it's actually received fairly well, as Megan does like the player's shrewd reputation. But in order to actually get further with this flirtation and, end up in a possible romance story, we learned that Megan actually likes someone who is an entrepreneur, someone who wears fancy clothes, and someone who owns a house. So in order to get further with Megan, we're going to have to meet those requirements. And the player heads off to do exactly that and goes off to the local tailor in the town to purchase new clothes. And we got to see options for headwear, eyewear, tops, bottoms, and shoes, all of which have their own looks, which do affect the way that some NPCs will view you. And we also learned that there are tattoo artists and hairdressers that you'll find scattered throughout the world as well. All of them may offer their own unique options. So maybe in one town you can get a special tattoo, and in another one there's a different tattoo. And also that there's going to be rare outfits in the game that can be discovered and obtained in more dangerous areas of the game. The player also goes on to purchase a home and also a business, but more on those two topics here shortly. When the player returns to Megan later on after doing all of that.
How about a date?
A date? Oh, I'm chuffed to bits.
Megan receives his next flirtation very well, and they actually enter into a relationship together, which, as we already know, can blossom into marriage and even kids in this game. We even see some new action icons here for Megan that indicate sleep with is an option. I'm assuming successfully pulling off this action could possibly yield children. Perhaps this icon is a do you want to live together type request or action. Whatever this icon is, I'm not exactly sure. We have a marriage proposal icon / action, and also what appears to be an option to start a breakup if you're just not feeling it anymore. But let's swing back to talking about owning a shop in this game, or a business. So in Fable, you can buy any business in the game if you have the funds, that is. The player in this demonstration decides to buy the local Silverbrook pub, the Silver Trough. And on the deed outside of the pub, you can learn what the business's income is, how many employees the business can have, and how much a player will need to actually buy the business out and essentially become the new owner. After the player purchases the pub, do note that their reputation does receive a few things. They become an entrepreneur and also become rich, and this will affect the way that NPCs look at you and treat you. And also a business menu then becomes available where you can see employee performance. You can alter employee wages, which affects the employee's wealth and their ability to pay their own rent. You can manage employees, which allows you to see who is working for you and what they're good at, as we are told that every villager's performance will be different. Susan here is apparently good with customers, and this is causing an income boost of plus 10% to the player's business. And you can also set the prices of what your business's goods or services are sold for. And I see 4 different price categories here. You can also sell your business. Interestingly enough, you can also hire anyone in this game as long as they like your job offer. So this player in particular fills their 1 employee vacancy with Jack the Beggar, who they talked to earlier and gave coin to. And this actually causes Jack to like the player even more, and it changes Jack's title to Jack the Bartender from Jack the Beggar. The NPCs that you hire will add or make room for their new job in their daily routines. One thing that I really liked here is that when you hire an NPC, they actually walk over to your business and you can see them working versus, just spawning there one day or not really being able to see them working at all. You can also fire your employees, of course, as well, but you might take a little bit of a reputation hit with them. Business owners in Fable will have their own income chests that are located in all of their business locations or the homes that they own. And this is where you'll be able to collect your earnings from your business or your multiple businesses. But do note that you do have to upgrade this chest to increase the max coin that it can hold at any given time. After the player has done all of this in the town, including a scene that I haven't talked about yet in the video, when the player scrolls over the town of Silverbrook on the map, you can see a bit of a summary of what villagers think of you. But note that all of these traits here are not labeled as good or evil, as the way the devs explain it is that different characters will view individual traits in their own ways. You know, morality is multifaceted and it's subjective. I do think some of this, I do feel like I would have preferred at least some black and white options for morality in this game, especially, you know, coming from the OG Fable where you can grow horns or grow a halo on top of your head. But I'm not totally against this multifaceted thing. I'm going to stay open-minded and give it a try. I just hope there are some real evil things that we can do and people acknowledge it that way, at least most people. Now we're told that we can visit a town crier to change what people think of you, to change your reputation amongst the people, but that you have to have a lot of money to do that. Now, while criminals can pay fines to have the guards not confront you anymore and try to kill you, if you're known to be a murderer or someone who assaults NPCs, that reputation is not going to go away with the villagers or the NPCs simply by paying a fine. Reputation mending in this game will require you to do things that will make the NPCs like you more. Or, of course, you can, if you're rich, you can go talk to the town crier and have that taken care of. And moving on to getting a job and owning property in this game. So we're told that we can buy any house in all of Albion, but if you were to attempt that, it's going to cost you quite a lot of time to save up enough gold. This player takes a look at number 6, King's Hunt, which has a purchase price of 34,000 plus gold, but unfortunately the player doesn't have enough coin at this time. So what the player ends up doing is picking up a temporary job or shift at the local blacksmith to save up some more coin. And this is as easy as just walking up to the blacksmith station and starting a shift. Now for this particular mini game job / profession, there is a little interactive type game that you play, and this requires you to balance speed and precision. So if you go super fast while doing this, you can potentially earn more coin as you're going to complete more jobs, but you also risk being less precise. And if you focus only on precision and you go extremely slow, you know, it might not be worth the time spent doing it. Perfect hits in the blacksmithing minigame will earn multipliers on your gold, so you have like some risk reward going on here. And after your shift is over, you will get a tally of what you earned and basically what you did, and that includes gaining some XP as well. Do note that it appears as if your XP while blacksmithing goes towards your progression as a blacksmith as you start off as an apprentice. So now that the player has enough gold, they actually head back to purchase that home. And keep in mind that you don't have to be the one that lives in a home. You can be a landlord in this game and actually rent it out. In fact, you can be the ultimate landlord and own everybody's home, and you can be a slumlord if you want. Now, if you buy a home that somebody is already living in, you actually automatically become their landlord, and then you'll need to either evict them, which yes, will have a negative effect on reputation for you with them, or you can pay them to actually leave if you want to live in the house yourself. And note that you do control rent price and can even make a house free if you're feeling rather charitable. Houses in this game will come in all shapes and sizes, and we're told that includes being able to buy mansions in this game. And in all of your homes that you live in, you will have an income chest and also a wardrobe where you can change your character's appearance, which includes actually some of the character customization options. You can redo those or change them. In this demonstration, we actually didn't see anything on house customization, but I'm sure that that will be revealed at some point prior to Fable's release. And now last but certainly not least, let's talk about a little dialogue story conversation scene that plays out in the town. So right here we have the player approach a butcher, a pig, and a kid that doesn't want the butcher to kill the pig. And hey, also this pig talks.
But I've only just learned to communicate. Who knows what else I could achieve? I've got potential, hero. Don't let me end up on a spit.
Not all pigs will be like this in this game, but this pig is special for some reason. The player ends up being the one who has to decide what the pig's fate is. And you can see right here that we have 4 different dialogue options, the top 2 deciding the pig's fate, while the bottom 2 allowing the player to inquire more information and context on the situation. The player ends up telling John the butcher that the pig should live, but John actually says that you don't make the decisions here. And that is when 3 more dialogue options pop up. One of them is an attempt to buy the pig if you want to save the pig that way. Another one is to fight John for the pig. And the last one is to let John do whatever John wants to do, which is likely kill the pig and feed people in the town. The player decides to buy the pig from John here because, of course, they're not going to show the pig die in the demonstration. But I did find it quite interesting that there are several different choices here, all of which do appear to have, very different outcomes from one another. The choices that you make in this story scene all interact with the game's reputation system. The kid has feelings on what you choose to do, the guy does, and so do other villagers. And actually, the devs themselves have stated that there will be hundreds of branching dialogue choices that change what happened and how people feel about you, and that every choice has a consequence. There might be some marketing jargon going on in there, but at least they're backing up some of this with this gameplay demonstration. Now, while that little story scene right there wasn't considered a cinematic, the devs did state that Fable will feature over 2 hours of full cinematics, which I would say is exciting to hear. So my overall thoughts on this demonstration, I definitely enjoyed it overall. The core gameplay, the combat looked really fun and mostly fleshed out, I would say. I enjoyed noticing the little details, such as the NPC getting shot in the leg and actually having that leg shoot back, causing the NPC to fall over. And magic in this game looks like it is a ton of fun, which is exactly what it should be in a Fable game. I also very much appreciate the devs focusing so much on life sim type elements, owning homes, owning businesses, being able to pick up a shift as a blacksmith, and having an immersive mini game associated with that. I think Fable is best when you can step away from the main story at times and just live in the beautiful, vibrant world of Albion. And it seems like they're really focusing on making these systems quite fun. You can't really know for sure, but at least watching this demonstration, I'm excited to give it a try. Now, as far as the morality system goes, I'm definitely still undecided. I get the multifaceted thing, but yeah, I can't help but think about OG Fable and being able to be clearly evil versus good and the evolution of your character that comes with that. But I'm going to stay open-minded here. I do think it's impressive and interesting, the systems that they have running behind the scenes here for Reputation. But yeah, only time will tell how well it actually works when you've been playing for a while and whether or not it will become redundant and predictable, etc. I actually enjoyed the story scene with the pig here. I thought the writing was fine. The voice acting was fine in this scene. Now, with that said, the facial animations, very, very, very stiff. Not the end of the world, but certainly noticeable. The world overall looks interesting to me. A few things in the environment looked a little bit stiff, but overall, I'm excited to explore Albion. It looks like they did a pretty good job with the art direction here. And, I'm excited to go into some of these deep forests and explore and hopefully find some cool gear and some interesting caves and just see the entire world as a Fable fan. I like the direction that they're headed with that. So yeah, overall, I very much enjoyed the presentation. A few things that are a cause for concern, but yeah, that'll be it for this video. Thank you all so much for watching. Much more Fable videos to come in the future, and I'll catch you all on the next one.